everybody! Thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Well, in just a couple of days, our deer rifle season is going to start, and I want to make sure that when Kevin is out there hunting for venison for our family, that he has some homemade meals to take with him.
It's not uncommon for me to be out in my deer blind or out in a tree stand from really a little bit before the sun comes up in the morning, oftentimes until the sun goes down at night if I haven't gotten a deer that day.
And I don't want him to be hungry and have his stomach growling when he's trying to be quiet for the deer. But I want to make sure that he has some food with him that is still healthy, still homemade, doesn't require refrigeration, but also doesn't need to be heated up with like a microwave or a fire or anything like that. So today we are going to make some freeze-dried meals for him to take along that will be easy enough for him to just take a thermos of like really hot water, add it to the container or to the packaging, and voila, there are some really wonderful homemade nutritious meals for him out there for the week plus that he will be hunting.
So in this video, we're actually going to make the meals, but I'm also going to try them here on the video before hunting season gets here so that I know if they're good or not.
Well, I think a lot of times we do freeze-dry videos and we get to the end where we package them all, but then we don't do a lot of the like rehydrating and show you how that all works and then taste them. So on this video, we're going to do that so that you guys can experience that as well.
Right.
So today we're going to be doing two different things. We're going to be making a breakfast meal and we're going to be making a dinner meal.
Right.
The breakfast will be scrambled eggs with shredded cheese and pork sausage patties. And then the dinner or the supper will be chili.
Right. We actually had chili the other day, and of course, anybody who makes chili knows that when you make chili, you always make way too much. So, we're going to be freeze drying some of it so that I can take that along when I'm out hunting.
So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is get the patties, the pork sausage patties, pattied up and into the oven. We're going to be using the air fryer in our oven to cook those to make sure that all the grease comes out of it because a freeze dryer doesn't do really well with grease.
Right.
So that's what we're going to start with.
Yeah, in general, when you're freeze drying things, fat or oils, they don't really freeze dry. So the leaner things like meat can be, the more successful you're going to be at freeze drying them.
So let's get started on those pork patties. So I have 2 pounds of ground pork sausage from our pigs that we've got back from the butcher. And actually the flavoring of this sausage, it's bulk Wisconsin brat flavored. That is our favorite flavoring for sausage. And it really does make a good like breakfast patty. So I'm just gonna open both of these up into this bowl. Now, I do want to let you know that when pork is frozen, the outside of it kind of takes on a gray color, but the inside of it is still pink. So you'll probably notice that as I take this out and as I mix them up, that's kind of where the color difference is from. And that's actually really typical and natural for pork when it's frozen. For ground pork. I'm just gonna mix this up with my hands to combine it all together. Now you can see as I'm mixing it up, you can see the pink meat on the inside. One thing that I've also noticed over time with pork, and especially ground pork, is that after about a year in the freezer, it starts to taste freezer burn. So I always make a special point of either using or preserving our ground pork and pork sausage within that year that we have that pork butchered. Other things like pork roasts and stuff, that doesn't happen to as much, but the ground pork and the pork sausage, it does get freezer burn tasting a little bit easier. So now that I have this all combined, I am going to be dividing these into 12 patties. So each pound of ground meat will turn into 6 patties, and we'll have a total of 12 to go into the oven.
So like Sarah said, we're going to be using the air fryer setting in our oven for this. You could definitely do these on the stove top and just drain them really well, or do them on a cookie sheet and drain them really well. Our oven just happens to have an air fryer setting, and because of that, we have these air fryer racks, and they're like mesh, so we can put stuff on there, and then the grease will fall through into these pans, and that way, everything will be much more of the grease will drain out of these. These are actually, this is how we make bacon now too, and it works out really well. So we're going to be making the patties on these. I'm going to get the oven turned on while she's making the patties.
Now these racks, if you are interested in checking them out, they can be found on Amazon. That's where we got them. They're super handy for these ovens that have the air fry setting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the new ovens now have the air fryer setting. Really, all it is that there's a little fan inside of the oven that blows the air around. So
we're going to get all of these pattied up onto these racks. We're going to put them in the oven on the air fry setting. I'm not really sure how long these are going to take, but we will cook them until they're 165 degrees. I'm guessing it's going to take 20 or 30 minutes maybe, and we can move on to the scrambled eggs. All of the patties are ready. I've got these 2 pans, 12 patties all together. We can just put them in the oven. Like Kevin said, it's on the air fryer setting and it's on 400 degrees. Okay, now we can get started on the scrambled eggs.
all right, let's get started on the scrambled eggs. We're going to be making 2 dozen scrambled eggs, but we're going to be doing them in 2 batches. That way we know we can put a dozen on each of the freeze dryer trays. It just makes things a little bit easier for dividing them up at the end. So we're going to be using chicken eggs. A lot of times we use duck eggs, but this time of year we're just not getting any duck eggs. So today's going to be all chicken eggs. And we're actually going to be making them in our Vitamix blender. That way we'll just know that they're blended up really well. So I'm going to get all 12 of the first dozen in here. We're going to add just a little bit of half and half as we blend it up as well. Then Sarah will start scrambling them and cooking them on the stovetop as I do the second dozen over here in the Vitamix. All right, our eggs are in, so we're going to add some organic half and half. I don't know, that looks like a good amount. Doesn't have to be a lot. Always make sure the lid's on tight. You only make that mistake once.
So I'm going to be using a nice cast iron pan for this. I put in about a tablespoon of home rendered pork fat or lard. I'm letting that melt here. Because these are going to be going into the freeze dryer, I really want to use as little oil or grease, fat as possible. But we also want these to, number 1, taste really good, and number 2, not stick to the pan. So as soon as this pan is really hot, I will go ahead and put in the eggs. There is no secret to cooking scrambled eggs. We're just going to scramble them up and put them on the freeze dryer tray. And at the same time, Kevin is going to crack the second dozen and blend those up for the second batch of scrambled eggs. Okay, this is hot. We're just going to go ahead and put all these in here at once. Now Kevin can get the second batch going. Okay, the first batch are ready. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to salt them. I haven't salted them yet, so. And some black pepper. We're making this easy here. Pretty simple. Just gonna mix that around a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna transfer these to the first freeze dryer tray. They can cool off in there, and then we can move on to the second batch. Well, now this second batch is done as well. Let's salt these. And the pepper. Give them a stir.
Well, the sausages are done. We checked them with a meat thermometer just a minute ago. And they are definitely done. And they smell amazing. I actually just want to eat them now, but I know we can't, so. All right, we're gonna let those cool off as well. We're basically gonna let everything cool off before we put it in the freeze dryer. We also need to get the chili ready so that we can do that as well. Well, the patties have cooled down, so we're gonna take them and we're just gonna transfer them to our freeze dryer trays. We could definitely fit more on here, but we're gonna spread them out since we want to fill up the freeze dryer anyway.
We probably could have doubled the amount of patties, but we only have enough food for 5 trays this time.
Right.
So it'll all work out fine.
Right.
It ended up that our pork patties were really pretty lean and they didn't produce a whole lot of oil, but I'm so glad that we did. But I'm so glad that we used the air fryer because it made them nice and brown and a little bit crispy on the edges, so they're going to taste really good.
They look good. So we've got those ready. We're also going to sprinkle our eggs with cheese. And then this will get freeze dried right with the eggs. I'm going to say that I'm going hunting just so I can take these out there with me.
Because they're going to be so tasty?
Yeah.
And it was such a good idea that your wife thought of these things?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to let all the deer walk by just so I can stay out there longer eating.
I think the
Not
only
really.
the only hiccup is that they might smell all your food.
Yeah, well, I won't do these when I'm in like a tree stand. I'll be in my hunting blind and I can shut the windows and stuff, so
Okay.
it won't be that big of a deal.
Okay, the last...
If all goes well, I'll just say this right now. If all goes well, I'll be back in the house before I ever need to eat any of this out in the woods, because I typically limit myself to 1 deer a day during hunting season. So if I get one in the morning, then I'm just in for the rest of the day so I can process it and everything. So ideally, I'll get out there by about 5:30 in the morning. By 6:15, I'll already be back in the house having my breakfast with a deer behind the ATV.
Actually, every time he goes out to deer hunt, he says, "Okay, see you in 30 minutes."
It's never happened yet,
No.
but one of these days,
might.
she is going to be surprised when I don't even make it to the end of the driveway before I shoot one.
Okay, so the last tray we have reserved for the leftover chili that we made, and it's not an enormous amount of chili, but it is definitely enough for probably 3 meals.
Right.
And you would be really surprised how well like soups and stews and chili and stuff freeze dry. And when you rehydrate them, it's like the same thing.
Right.
I mean, it's like exactly the same as when you put it in the freeze dryer. It's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And this is a thick chili too, so it'll be nice and hearty.
Yeah, well, it's good because when you rehydrate it, you can just add a little extra water if you want it to be a little thinner.
That's true.
So
this chili is super yummy. I think every single ingredient in here except for the beans are homegrown or home raised.
Right.
All the meat, all the veggies.
And even though we
everything.
do keto and we try to eat low carb, we still put a few beans when we make chili because you just got to have some beans in chili.
True. And actually, the green peppers and the onions that I put in here, they were actually the ones that I freeze dried this summer.
Right.
So I'm just
are,
like freeze drying the freeze dried.
These are refreeze dried.
They're freeze dried, rehydrated, freeze dried again, and then you'll rehydrate them. Anyway. So all 5 of these trays are ready to go into the freeze dryer. I have already turned it on and let it cool down. So the freeze dryer that we have is a Harvest Right freeze dryer, which is really the leading and primary company in the United States that makes home freeze dryers.
Right.
We have the medium size, which these days holds 5 of these trays. Originally, the medium size held 4, and just last year they upgraded that and made the internal parts so that it can hold 5 trays now.
Right. And you actually don't have to buy a whole new unit to do that upgrade.
Right.
You can call them and just purchase the new insert, and that way it'll upgrade to 5 trays, which was a really nice thing to do, to not have to buy a whole new unit, to just be able to upgrade to the 5 trays.
Absolutely. And not only are the freeze dryers great for things like this, you know, we're freeze drying this and Kevin's basically going to eat all these up within a week. But freeze drying retains all of the nutrients, and if packaged properly and freeze dried properly, we could store this for up to 20 to 25 years.
Right.
So that's a really great advantage of freeze dryers.
Right. And over the last few years, now we get so many questions about the freeze dryer. One of them is always about price. Over the last few years, they've really come down in price. And Harvest Right actually offers a layaway program where you can kind of pay it off over time. It's not really like a credit program, but it's like you can pay it kind of in advance before they ship it to you. Even if it takes you a year or more to pay for it, they can do that before they ship it to you. And it's just a great way to, be able to kind of finance it in advance, kind of.
Right. It's a layaway program.
Right.
Like we used to have, to pay for your Christmas gifts.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, just before we started recording this video, I went on the Harvest Right website just to kind of look at what their current models are. And you guys, they're running some fantastic, like, Black Friday deals already for this Christmas season. So, if you're interested in a freeze dryer, we'll leave a link. We do have an affiliate link, so if you want to check that out, we'll leave a link in the description of this video. We would get just a little bit commission if you do that, but we sure would appreciate it.
Okay, so let's load the freeze dryer and get these things going. Let's close this up and we're going to get it started. Just going to press continue. And it is all set. It's going to do everything that we need it to do, just all on its own. It's kind of set it and forget it. So this is going to take probably 1 to 2 days to finish all of this. When it's finished, we'll come back, we'll unload it together, we'll package it up into little meals, and then we will rehydrate some of it and taste it.
Well, the freeze dryer is done. It's been a little over 24 hours since we put everything in, so it is time to unload the freeze dryer, get everything packaged up, and most importantly, give everything a taste test.
We have decided to have this for supper.
Right.
So one of us is going to have the eggs and sausage, the other is going to have the chili, because I love chili. So let's get started. I'm hungry. And I also want to get these meals packaged up so that Kevin can take them along with him when he goes hunting.
So I think we'll start by packaging up the eggs and sausage.
Okay.
We're going to put 1 sausage patty and, a 1/12 of the eggs into each package. But we're also going to put 1 meal's worth in one of these little plastic containers. That's what I'll be trying tonight for dinner. So let's go grab those trays first. We'll get that all packaged up.
Here's the eggs and the cheese.
And here's the 2 trays of sausage. It's so cool.
Here's the chili. Now the eggs and the cheese look exactly the same as when we put them in there.
Yeah.
But they're like they're really light and I don't know. It's just strange.
Well, same with the sausage. It's like, I don't know. It's really kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. Oh, and I kind of accidentally just broke one apart. They're so dry that they just like
Crumble.
kind of like a cookie.
Yeah.
You know? And the chili, it probably looks the most different out of all three of these that we freeze dried. But it's pretty awesome. It's kind of like cracking in the middle. That's awesome. Okay. So what are we going to do?
We're going to divide these into 12.
Okay, so 6 each.
Right. And then we're going to, well, let's load up one of these first.
Okay. Do you want to put a patty in there?
Sure. I'll put the one that you broke in there.
Okay. Why don't you get out 11 more bags for the other breakfast?
Okay.
And I'll try to separate these.
All right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to put them in these Mylar bags, and then as I want to take them out with me hunting or whatever we end up doing with them, we'll just open one up and we'll put it into a container like this, so that this is where we can add the hot water when we're ready to actually eat it. So it's really amazing. It's like, I remember as a kid, like reading about like astronaut food. This is what I think the astronauts ate back in the day when we would read about astronaut food. Like, this is it. This is what they would take into outer space, and they would just be able to eat while they were gone.
And just as a reminder, in each tray of these eggs, we did a dozen eggs. So when we divide all of these into like 6 portions per tray, it will be 2 eggs.
Right. It's 2 eggs and a sausage patty per meal.
It is so super crazy because the eggs and the cheese look exactly the same.
Yeah. All right. So we'll put a sausage patty in there, and then we also need to put an oxygen absorber in each one. Now, these bags and the oxygen absorbers are also from Harvest Right. We have bought some in other places as well, but really, the Harvest Right ones just really seem to be a really good quality, and we just keep going back to the Harvest Right ones. And we just like that you know, they have a space to write everything on there, and they work out really well. And then we'll just heat seal it. And when you buy a Harvest Right freeze dryer, it comes with this as well. And I think it comes with some of the bags and stuff to get you started. But basically, that just seals the top. And these do have a zipper seal on them as well, so once you open them, like in this case, we're going to eat the whole thing at once. But if you were to want to reuse, just take a little bit out and seal it back up, it does have a zipper seal on there as well.
All right, let's put one of these in here and then seal up another batch.
Now for the chili, we're going to divide this one tray into 4 meals. And then really, it's up to you how much water you add to kind of make it as thick or as soupy as you want, depending on how you like it.
So I'm just going to cut this into 4ths. You can probably hear how crunchy and dry it is. It really is amazing technology.
Yeah. It really, no matter how many times you use the freeze dryer, every time it's just like you're kind of in awe.
It's like magic.
So the first section is going to go into one of these trays. But look at that. Look at that.
It's like peanut brittle.
You like pick up and eat chili.
Yeah, it looks like peanut brittle. It smells amazing. Chili is one of my very favorite things to make. So to have it in storage is really amazing. I love that.
She's even won chili contest.
I have.
So for the ones going in the bags, we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did with the other things. We're going to put them in a Mylar bag, add an oxygen absorber, and then heat seal them so that they will stay good for the next 25 years or so. All right, well, we've got everything cleaned up, and it's time to actually try the food and see how it tastes. So I'm going to be having the eggs and sausage. You hear it in here. I've already got some water that I heated up. So I don't really know how much to add to this, but I think with this, really, I'm just going to kind of cover it and then leave it sit for a few minutes. And if it's too much, we'll just kind of drain off the extra. I think it'll be fine.
And with the chili, I really think that whatever liquid I put in there, the amount, is just gonna make, you know, the consistency of the chili. So I'm not really worried if it's a little bit soupy, but I'm just gonna water it down here. I think that's probably all I'm gonna need.
I'm gonna put the cover back on this.
That's a good idea.
Just to.
I'm gonna mix mine around. It's actually
Yours is
reconstituting
like
really
instant.
quickly. But it has some things to really moisten more than you would think.
Right,
like the beans are going to take a while. The onions and the peppers are going to take a while.
Right.
But I'm not sure
But
if you can see that.
It already looks like chili.
Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh, it smells so good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to cover mine too.
Okay, let's let these sit for, I'd say, like 5 minutes, and then we'll give them a try.
Sounds good. Well, let's try the chili, or at least open it up and see what it looks like.
So it's been just about 5 minutes since we added the water to these.
This looks amazing.
Now mine is definitely
you need to drain that out.
I'm going to go over to the sink and I'm going to drain some of the water, but I think that that's probably the best way to do it because then you know it soaked up all that it basically needs.
This chili looks fantastic, looks absolutely perfect and amazing. I wonder if the beans kind of feel mushy, like they're all reconstituted also. Yep, they are. Mm-hmm.
The cheese melted just like it would, if it were on hot eggs. Let's go ahead and give the eggs a try first.
Are they still a little crunchy?
No?
No? Mm-mm. Oh, good.
They're maybe not quite as fluffy as they would be fresh, but they're really good.
It could be because you had them immersed.
Right.
Maybe they wouldn't be so.
Right. But they're good. They're definitely good.
Try the sausage.
Feels like it reconstituted fine. I actually think that seems more like its original state than the eggs even. It's really good.
Let me mix up the chili because I'm dying to have some of this chili. It smells good. The consistency of the bean was good, even though I thought those would take a long time to get done. It's very good.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks exactly the way it did when we put it in the freeze dryer.
The meat inside of it feels exactly like the meat would before it was freeze dried.
I think in this one too, the meat actually reconstituted better than the eggs. I would say the eggs the meat is 100% exactly the same, and the eggs are probably 90% the same. And really, I think if the water were hotter, and maybe if we would have let it sit a little longer, it would have been even better.
Yeah.
But
this is a win.
Right. To have this be able to just go out into the woods, add some hot water, and have a hot meal is amazing.
This would be perfect for camping too, or just really any time that you need to go somewhere that you don't want to eat wherever you're going.
Right. Out on the boat.
Right. Yeah.
Fishing, whatever.
Right. This is an awesome thing to be able to take along.
Right. So you guys, I hope that you will give this a try. If you have a freeze dryer, these are two really easy meals to make. If you don't have a freeze dryer, you should really consider it. Like I said, they have a great layaway program, so you can basically pay it over time before you even get it. Not like you're taking out a loan, but you're kind of paying it as you can ahead of time, and it just works out really well.
The main reason why I like to have a freeze dryer is because we grow and raise so much of our own food, and we can it, we can freeze it, but those really have kind of a shelf life in those forms before the canned food loses its nutritional value and it starts not looking very good and ultimately will go bad.
Right.
The stuff in the freezer will ultimately get freezer burn. But this is going to be good just like this for 20 to 25 years, you guys.
Right.
Our hard work could continue feeding us well into retirement.
Right, yeah. I could eat this meal right now when I'm 70 years old.
Right.
And it's going to be just as good as what I'm trying right here on video today.
Right, and the nutritional content of freeze-dried food is like over 90%.
Right.
Whereas if you freeze it and you can it, or even if you dehydrate it, you're losing more of the nutritional content than if you're freeze drying it.
Right. Anytime you heat things up, you're going to lose nutritional value. But when you freeze dry it, it retains all of that nutritional value. You really should do a deep dive into kind of the science behind freeze drying because it is really pretty amazing.
So you guys, if you are interested in getting or looking more into a Harvest Right freeze dryer, make sure that you use the link below in the description of this video to find out more. It really is a great investment, especially for those of you who are growing and raising a lot of your own food.
Right. So if you give this a try, let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you're going out hunting yourselves this year. I'd love to know what you guys get. I know it's going to be a great hunting season because I've seen some really nice deer on our place already. I'm excited to get out there into the woods.
You guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you are interested in freeze drying, we have a lot more freeze drying videos that you can take a look at. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.